And hello, everyone, and welcome to this Story Rocket Live. I hope everyone is doing really well tonight. I know we're going coast to coast. I'm coming to you live from Miami, Florida. And our theme tonight, we are super excited because it is so timely for so many authors. It's about launching, virtual book launchings. And what we're so excited about today is that the landscape has completely changed for all of us. And what has happened because of COVID is that a lot of big events where people plan their launches, such as BEA, Book Expo America, which I've been on stage there and spoken to a lot of people on the crowds, it's gone. And a lot of other places are gone as well. So this has changed our landscape. We have to change how we're thinking about book launches, and this is the perfect time to do it. Let me introduce myself. I am Anna Benitez. I have been in the entertainment business for over 20 years. I'm a two-time Emmy award-winning producer and also the co-founder of Storyrocket.com, who sponsors this event free for anyone tonight. With me, those of you who have been around and watched many of our Story Rocket Lives, you know that I have a person that I love having next to me. She is an international award-winning author and is just an amazing, talented writer herself. I want to welcome today Danielle Van. Danielle, if you can. There we go.
Everyone, hello. We are back. Finally, I'm so excited to be here. I am Danielle Van. I'm a 19 times internationally award-winning author. Written a screenplay and used to be a former news anchor and have also worked in publishing. We always try to bring both sides, and I'm so excited to be with you. You're one of my favorite people.
Oh, thank you so much.
We have a big night, don't we? We've been busy.
We do. And, you know, COVID kind of suspended things for a lot of people, but, you know, we all learned how to live within those confines. And I have to say, we've been busy in Story Rocket. We've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes. Last year, in the midst of COVID, we launched our PDF pitch package, which agents and producers and writers rave about. And I know it's one of your favorite things that you use right now.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to see it too. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't actually gone onto your page and looked at it, we're going to show you tonight what that looks like. That is my favorite thing. But we've also been working on something that both of us are very proud of. We have put so much work into and still so much more work to come into, but I think we have to talk about that really quickly, right?
We are almost there, and you guys are hearing it first tonight. So we are launching what we call the Publishers Program. So a lot of traditional publishers, I know a lot of you out there might be self-published, but some of you are actually getting picked up by traditional publishers on Storyrocket. So that got us thinking that we needed a program to really welcome them on board. And that's what the Publishers Program is all about. And we're so excited to have them this year coming in. And that's going to be, I think, by March, which is our 4th year anniversary.
I know. Can you believe that? It's so amazing. We have been working together for several years. We first met at BEA, which we were just talking about, but this program is really, I think, going to change the landscape, not only of Storyrocket, but how publishers are putting things up too. So I'm very excited to be a part of it. And you know what? I want to make sure that we give plenty of time for tonight. We have big, information on how to change this landscape. So I think let's get to our guest. What do you think?
Yes. Before we do that, there is a second thing that we're launching this year.
Oh, yes.
And I don't want to forget about it because we're always thinking on how to improve how you get your book out into different people's hands. And we are developing an app that is also going to be unveiled this year. I think by summer, we're going to have that app. So basically it's having your pitch 24/7 right in the palm of your hands. So you can share it, you can show it, just another way to get your work noticed.
Well, and it's so amazing too, because you can take your iPad into a pitch and not have to have that paper trail anymore. You're going to have that you know, beautiful PDF, everything sitting right there at the palm of your hands. It's really, I don't know, it's mind blowing to me. I'm excited about it. So yes, I'm sorry, I forgot the app. The app is amazing.
That is okay. And you guys will hear about it too on email. So I met Amy, our special guest tonight, Amy Lee, through a one-on-one consultation. So we were, she came on board. She wanted that one-on-one consultation. She wanted me to look at her pitch. We worked together on the pitch. She really worked hard on her logline, and she actually really impressed me. She's a very talented writer. She's got passion for what she's doing. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about herself. I'm going to formally introduce her. So Amy was born in Vietnam. And in 1979, when she was only 5 years old, her mother fled the country when everything was going wrong in Saigon. And like hundreds of thousands of boat people, they were refugees in a different country, going through tons of hardship. And her mom really risked her life for Amy and a nephew. They ended up, like I said, in a refugee camp in Indonesia. And then finally in 1980, they got sponsored to come to the United States, to Seattle. And when Amy got here, she was a sickly baby. She was actually very sick, and she had to be rushed to the hospital for a life-saving operation. She can tell us about that. And, you know, her mom had a lot of courage. She was starting fresh, not knowing a single person, not knowing the language, the culture, how to do things, how to get around in a very ill baby. I want to say that her mom is Dolly. Dolly's courage rubbed off on Amy, I have to say. She doesn't say that, but I will go ahead and say that. Amy went ahead and graduated from Western Washington University with a degree in sociology and technology. She worked in the telecommunications field for many years, and now she had the courage to leave her corporate job and her corporate salary to pursue her passion of writing books. Her first book, which is Snow in Vietnam, was written in 2007. And she started doing this after her mom passed away, actually in a way to honor her mom. And then right after she did Snow in Seattle, and her latest book is actually Snow novella and cookbook. I think I'm missing something there, but we will see all of this later. She now lives in Oklahoma City. She completely changed her life in order to be able to do what she's doing now, which is dedicate her time to writing books. She serves on the Oklahoma City Writers Organization, and she's actually the president of that organization. And her book, Snow in Vietnam, was recognized as a finalist in the Pacific Northwest Writers Association. So with no more, I am so excited to bring on more Amy M. Lee. Amy, welcome to Storyrocket Live.
Welcome.
Wow, that's an incredible intro. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Well deserved.
Amy, we're going to start with your story a little bit, because I think having with the people understanding your background and what's gone through the life of your mom and you, they're going to really love what your books are all about. So start telling us a little bit about your mom, her background.
Absolutely. So my mom was the youngest of 7 children, but we called her 8 because in the Vietnamese culture, you number your kids, and the adults, the parents, are always number 1. So being the 7th, she is actually called 8. And her Vietnamese name is Thuy, which translates to the word snow, and hence the title of my book, Snow in Vietnam. So my mom was always a very spoiled child, wasn't interested in getting married, wasn't interested in anything but herself, really. But, along came my dad, and she wanted to start a family. She was arranged to marry him. And that's when I came in to provide additional turmoil in their life. So I was actually born 9 months before the fall of Saigon. And,
wow.
But my mom, she was an incredible, brave woman, and she had to grow up very fast. She had me when she was 35. And so even at age 35, she wasn't a very grown-up adult until the fall of Saigon, and everything just changed.
Right. So here's a spoiled child, And actually in the book, you talk about that she was in love with an American GI, but
Yes.
her parents wanted nothing to do with that. And that's why it was an arranged marriage between her and your dad, correct? Am I correct about that?
That is correct. And so I wrote my book as a historical fiction novel. I didn't have all the pieces. I did a lot of interviewing and trying to piece things together after my mom died. But 75% of that book is true. And yes, she was in love with an American GI and many others, actually.
And it's funny because, life kind of plays a game, right? Like she's in love with an American GI. She doesn't end up being with him, but it stays in her head that eventually she wants to make it to America, I would imagine, in the back of her head. Can we see some pictures of your mom, of what
Yeah,
she's going through?
let's hear some more about her, because that takes some strong tenacity to really, move through that. So let's see her.
So that is my beautiful mom on the right. That's Snow. And this was taken when she was, I think, in college. She was just out on the beach having a good old time celebrating life. And again, she was a strong swimmer. She loved to swim, loved to be out on the beach. And you can see that she's in a bikini there, which is a big faux pas in Vietnam. But again, she was a little wild child and didn't really care. But then along came my dad. He flexed his muscle. He really had an eye for my mom. And he was actually a bodybuilder. He was also living on the streets. There's a big story behind him that I hope to write one day. But he was also a teacher, and that's how my mom and my dad met. He taught at the school where my grandfather was the principal. And they met, and there I was, born in July of 1974. I look pretty chubby there, but I was actually a very sick child. I was born with a congenital heart defect. There was a hole in my heart and a murmur that didn't get resolved. And actually, the doctors didn't think I was going to live past the age of 5. Mm-hmm. So that started the clock ticking for my mom to try to leave the country. And the goal was to get medical care for me. And ultimately, we made it. We were sponsored in 1980, as Anna said. That's us in Seattle, and that was our first year. It was a great time. That there is also. Go ahead.
Did you come all together, or what? Did your dad come later?
So that's a story that is in my book, but actually my dad had a family of his own that my mom had found out about. So when the Saigon, when the fall of Saigon happened, he ended up going to the United States with his other family. And so from 75 to 79, it was just my mom and me and our, extended family hustling to survive the communist regime. And ultimately, my mom went by herself with myself. I was 5, and then my cousin, who was 16 at the time. And it was just us 3 on a rickety boat with 40 other boat refugees, 5 days, 4 nights out in the open seas, dealing with sharks and all that fun stuff.
Well, one of the things that I saw in your book that passage just grabbed me was when your mom confronts your dad about having a different family. She still hasn't left Vietnam. And she knows something's not right. She's not stupid. She could have been spoiled, but she had the courage to face him back then. And to me, that was pretty riveting. I was like, whoa, what's going on here?
Wow.
Yeah. My mom was a Spitfire. I think she threw a bottle of Mau Tai at him.
Wow.
Yeah. And his family is American, and I actually got to meet them. And that's another story as well, but that was very interesting. But so back to the slideshow here, my mom and we went to a temple. Now this is interesting. We went to a Buddhist temple in Seattle, and but we're Catholic. But we went there to visit a friend, and I don't know why, but they suggested us trying on some outfits. And so there is mom and I in our king and queen costumes, just having some fun, not doing anything really. And then that's mom and me. Flash forward to almost 30 years later, after we escaped the country to go back to Vietnam together for the very first time, also with my cousin. And that was a very memorable moment for me because we spent 30 days there in Vietnam for my first trip.
Mm.
And I took so many pictures of everything, Anna and Danielle. I took pictures of the fruits, the toilet, the chicken. Like it was all new to me. It was so new to me, but I left humbled. I left thinking and dreaming in Vietnamese, which is crazy because I lost the language when I was 6 and 7 years old.
Right.
Gaining a part of yourself, right? I mean, that's so amazing.
Yeah. She's
Beautiful.
That's great. So we're gonna segue now, Amy. You told us that this is your second virtual book launch, so that puts you ahead of a lot of people.
Right.
And in fact, after we had our one-on-one consultation, and then we met again to review the work that you had done and everything, you had the audacity to invite me to your book launch.
I love it.
And I said yes, it would be a pleasure to do that because I love what you're doing and I love to support our writers. And that's when the whole idea came together. So we're going to segue into that. So if you can just get off the sharing and we'll come back to that slide. So at this point, you've kind of given us a little bit of what it is and what you've kind of gone through. And so I want to look at your pitch package so that people get an idea of what your pitch package looks like. And Danielle will be so kind to, I'm going to Storyrocket.com live and look at your pitch package. And also we would love to hear a little bit of the book to do a few minutes of reading.
Now, this is the first book. Is that right, Amy?
That is correct. Yes.
All right. So it's such a beautiful pitch package. This is just beautiful. Everything you've put together looks so good on Storyrocket. Anna, you want to start with the log line first, or would you like to see the PDF?
Let's read the log line. As some of you may know, producers look at log lines first. We're trained to do that. If you have a weak log line, it doesn't mean you have a weak book, but it will be passed on. And unfortunately, a lot of people just slap a log line together. They're not even sure what it means. And, the book doesn't get into the right hands. But here we are. You worked hard on your log line, Amy, and this is a testament to you. So go ahead and read your log line.
It says a Vietnamese mother risked everything to keep her daughter alive following the Vietnam War, but is saving one life worth the risk of destroying others, including her own.
So it grabs me. In her synopsis, she starts off by telling us that even though you read that log line and you might think, oh my God, this is just it could be a very depressing or very dark book because they're going through really tough times. She tells you from the get-go that it's a mixture of Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club mixed in with a little bit of the crazy rich Asians, which mean that there's humor and romance as well as heartache. So this is not one-dimensional, your normal one-dimensional, like, oh, I'm suffering so much. There is humor to break it up. There is romance. There are different elements. And she's already making that distinction from the get-go, which I do love. So Amy, if you've got your book, I think we are all anxious to hear a few pages. And if you want to set up what that is.
Yes, so Snow in Vietnam is my debut novel. And I'm going to start with chapter 3, which is titled The She-Jackal. And it's about my mom's neighbor, Mrs. Tran, who was in charge of taking care of me, Dolly, when I was little, right before our planned escape, which actually got thwarted. So I'm going to start on page 21. Mrs. Tran is a nice woman. If you consider being tortured with a 60 grit sheet of sandpaper on your lady parts, nice. And if pugnacious and neurotic are acceptable, then she is the epitome of a psychotic and delusional woman. She is my sister 6, cloned one too many times, and is the annoying sliver of bok choy that is stuck in my teeth, relentlessly reminding me that she is still there, regardless of how tactfully I try to circumvent her. Despite her corkscrew demeanor, she is loving and attentive to Thuy Thien and flutters around my little Dolly like a raptor protecting her young. Only ugly girls have short hair, Mrs. Tran criticizes my haircut. It is too curly, like pubic hair. Mrs. Tran's need to degrade me without any filter makes me feel like my helmet is on backwards. She outwits me every time when I give her tit for tat. I hear you cannot cook either. A handsome man like your husband can do better. Must be your big chest that has him blinded. I'm going to stop there.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
I love Mrs. Tran. And
yeah, and you know, Mrs. Tran was like a thorn on her side, but actually gave her also the courage to confront your dad.
yes,
She kind of said, you know what I don't like about you is that you're basically telling her you're putting blinders on. Your husband has a different family, you've got blinders on. So it's fascinating. I love that story. This is how it all starts. So we're going to segue now into your book launch. So Danielle, if you want to get away from Storyrocket, and we're here again, back, all of us together, just talking about it. So you already did this all one time, and now you're doing it, getting ready for the second time. I know a lot of people have delayed their book launches due to COVID, and they're thinking, is now the right time? So why is today the right time for you?
Time is fleeting and you got to get out there. So there's no time like the present. You can't wait. And with me, this is my second book launch that's virtual. And it actually took 3 months in the making. I always say, you know, give yourself at least 1 month to prepare your book launch or your book launch party. But 3 months, ideally, I think is good, depending on how much you want to put into it. It could be simple or it could be a little bit more complex as mine, because I am actually having 2 hosts that are doing it for me, and one's in Singapore. So that took a little bit of planning.
So what would you say is the toughest hurdle? Is it a mental hurdle? You know, I can't do this. I don't have people signing autographs. I need a location. So is that mental hurdle that you're kind of alone in a box, putting your stuff out to the world? Or is it really the steps? We're going to break down the steps in a few minutes. So what do you think is the biggest hurdle?
The biggest hurdle is finishing your book and actually doing a book launch party. I think a lot of us are, as writers, we're introverts. And I know I am. I'm trying to be a little bit more of an ambivert, but you know, we would rather just write and hope and pray that it sells and not do any of the branding, marketing, you know, book signing, all that.
Exactly. And we're going to get to that, because one of the beautiful things about virtual book launches is that it's an organic way of selling your book. People are expecting to hear where your book is sold. You know, if they've hung on this long, they want to know, oh, you know, this is interesting. I want to hear more. So it's just an organic way. And like you said, once you publish your book, your job is no longer as a writer. Your job, boom, put on the next hat, is as a promoter.
Yeah, it's never finished.
Your book, to sell books, to get your books on the hands of producers, directors, agents, however is the next step, logical next step in your journey. That is your job. So well done, Amy.
I have a question really quick before we do get into the steps, Amy. Is there one thing that you really learned from this last time, the first time, that you are really integrating a little differently or amping up this next time?
Well, you know, the last time we did it via Zoom, and we did breakout sessions and had it recorded. That was a lot of fun, but when you do the playback on the recording, the Zoom actually only records the host.
Right.
The other breakout rooms. So I got to eavesdrop on what the host was talking about during the replay, which is all good. But that's one thing I definitely learned when you're doing Zoom and you're recording is don't do the breakout sessions.
Very good tip. And so let's go to those steps. And then I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions too. You guys, for those of you that are in attendance, I am watching the chat. So if you have questions, please put them in there so that we can ask Amy as well. I'm watching them over here. So let's get to this.
And I do want to welcome everyone. We were so formally at the beginning. We say, hey, hello, you and you from so-and-so. I know we have a lot of people tonight with us, and we thank you for being here. Maybe at the end, we'll have a few minutes to do a couple of shout outs. But I'm going to share now the screen. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
It's perfect.
It's perfect. Okay. So So this is step number one. What we did is we broke it down into 7 steps, and Amy did most of this work. I helped out, but Amy really led the pack here. So Amy, if you will tell us about number one.
So number one, obviously, is to actually do the book launch party, and that involves picking a date and a time. Um, I once was given the advice that if you're a morning lark or a night owl, to pick a time that you are most energized, but also most calm. And I generally would agree with that. But here's the thing is that most people work during the day. So if you're a morning lark, that's not going to work. And most events tend to start around 7 p.m. your local time. That's usually where most of your audience may be. So do that. But then the other thing I also heard is that publishers tend to publish books on Tuesday, and things get a little crazy on Tuesday. So you don't want to be launching your book on Tuesday and competing with the big publishers, the big fives, for example, if you're traditionally published with a smaller press or if you're indie publishing. I like to do mine on Wednesdays because it gives people a little bit of time to break up their week. It also gives you an opportunity to say, hey, go on to Amazon, and if you've got Prime, order the book if you're interested, and in 2 days you have a weekend read, unless you're doing an e-Kindle, for example. But Wednesday and Thursdays are generally the best times to do it. You obviously don't want to do it on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday when people are just not mentally ready to take in that data and have some fun with you. But my biggest also learning is to find out what some of the big events are. If you're competing against the Super Bowl, or for me, like a major UFC fight, like a Conor McGregor fight, not a good idea. So those are my number one advice for you.
Danielle, do you have anything else to add as far as date and time?
Yeah, actually I do. And DJ actually put up this question, and I was going to say this as well. So it says, when you mentioned 7 p.m., does that mean your time zone or your target's time zone? Amy, you talked a little bit about that, meaning your time zone. But one thing on your invitation for sure would be to go ahead and do the math and the calculation. Like, I'm on the West Coast. It's 2 hours behind. If you're on the East Coast, you're 3 hours. So go ahead and give that time to the people that you are targeting, because they don't want to have to do the work, right? Do the work ahead of time. And DJ, she was talking about putting it under her own local time for sure. Perfect.
Yeah. So yes, and you do want to do that. Sometimes I get an invitation, it doesn't say what time. So it will have 7 p.m. and you're wondering, wait, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pacific Time, is it Central Time? So you do want to put, those little, EST or CT or whatever time it is that you're doing. One other date that I'm going to just throw in there, because it's a favorite of Bowker, is a 1 p.m. on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Yeah. Why 1 p.m.? Because it's normally lunchtime. So even if people are working, they can get away and just hear you out for that hour. So 1 p.m. Eastern turns out to be 12 p.m. noon Central, which is both lunch hours. And then for Pacific, it's it's an early morning, but not so early as 7 o'clock. And that seems to work out well. So I'll put that out there. Yes, for Wednesday and Thursday, absolutely Wednesdays and Thursday. It gives you time to promote also leading up to it. Right. If you have a Monday event, most likely people did not open their weekend email. So guess what? Monday is going to creep up on them and they forgot. So definitely a Wednesday, Thursday would be beautiful. So here we are with step number 2, technology. Do you want to read that out, Amy?
Don't overcomplicate this part. Choose an app that you're already familiar with, such as Zoom. Make sure you have a way for people to register, capture their name and email to grow your fan list.
Amy, I want to talk about this because you are doing it on Zoom.
Yes.
But you created your invitation at Eventbrite, correct?
Yes.
So I want you, since this is your second one, there must be a reason why you chose not to have the registrations on Zoom, because as we all know, you can also register people on Zoom. So what was your thinking on still doing your launch on Zoom, but making your registration on Eventbrite? I actually liked it, but I just want to hear it from you.
2 parts to that. So because my host and co-hosts were using Zoom, it was their account. So I wanted to make it a little bit easier and also to control who was coming in, or at least see who was coming in. And because I had experience with Eventbrite, I stuck with that. I really wanted to be able to capture the names and the email addresses to build out my my fan list, my newsletter list if I wanted to contact them. And it was so much easier to go back into Eventbrite and reach out to the previous attendees at my first launch to invite them to the second and the third launches, right? So I just love it for the fact that I can capture the people that are coming.
I think a natural question, Amy, would be that for those people who've never used Eventbrite or don't, they're not familiar with it, is there a cost to you as you were setting up the event, and are you charging people for your events as well? I think that's going to be a natural next question.
It's a free event and it's a free website to use or tool to use. So it's a win-win for all of us. And you do have the option of charging or getting a donation through Eventbrite. So it's, your options, your choices.
Perfect.
Okay. And one of the things that I want to add about technology is keep it simple, like we say. So if you don't know Eventbrite, you can do everything on Zoom from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Make registration a must, and you say it's a free Zoom event, but you must register like you did for tonight. That's just a way to keep it very streamlined, especially if you're kind of solopreneuring this. The other part that I want to say about technology is Facebook Live. We used to do our shows on Facebook Live, me and Danielle, that's how we started. And the reason that I do not recommend Facebook Live, unless it's a rebroadcast of this, is because you're not capturing your leads. And you do not want to leave leads on the table. This is going to be your bread and butter going forward. As we said, marketing and promotion is going to be the name of the game for you going forward. And you want to capture those leads. And that is the only reason I say don't make a Facebook Live. Promote on Facebook Live, add your link to Zoom, create an event on Facebook Live. This is all free. Put in your event link, but do not make that your priority. If say, I'll just go straight into Facebook Live because I've done some before, that's wonderful, but guess what? You're not going to retain those leads. So
and you don't interact with your people either. I think with Facebook Live, you can't really see them and interact with them and take live questions. It's all through the chat.
That's another thing. Yes.
Yeah. The other part of that too is that the broadband, when you're translating that video over when you're live, is such poor quality if then using a Zoom or another hosting share like that. So definitely keep that in mind as you're trying to move forward and pick, which source you're going to come in. Obviously, Zooms work really well for a lot of people and for you, Amy. Yes. It's definitely a piece to, don't go to Instagram, don't go to Facebook, keep it intimate too, because people want to feel like they have you in a room, even if they don't. And that's the purpose, right?
Yes. That's a great idea. So we're going to go to number 3. Oh, sorry about that. Here we go. Your launch team.
Yeah.
You just spoke about that. You have an intricate launch team, someone in Singapore and someone in the US, and that's reflected on your invitation. We'll see that in a few minutes, but go ahead and read that.
Select 2 to 5 champions who will write reviews, promote your work, moderate your launch party, and share your posts. So I was very lucky. My launch team not only stretched from the West Coast where Seattle is, but it all the way wrapped around to Singapore. And those are the 2 co-hosts for my launch party. But I also have ambassadors that help me with this. They did early readings for me, advanced readings. They promoted it through writing early reviews. They shared all of my little tidbits and my events and my graphics, and they were really instrumental in getting that buzz going for me before the actual launch party. Because again, this took me 3 months of planning. So by the time that we actually put it out there that there was going to be a launch party, there was already people that were very interested, and some of them have already read my 3rd book. So that was exciting.
That's exciting because you're creating the buzz ahead of the launch, and that is super smart. Go ahead, Danielle.
Well, I was going to say, how did you decide who was going to do what? Like, did you just create a list and start pulling people saying, you would be a great co-host, or, you would be a great ambassador? And how did you approach them? That's going to be a major, question for a lot of people, is what did you do in exchange for them to be a part of this?
So first of all, I wanted to keep my launch team small. I didn't want it too big, and then you kind of get lost in the muddle there. But because this is my third book, I could count on my last two books to find out who actually read my books, who actually was very excited and wrote reviews and shared it everywhere, who had the certain expertise that I needed to make this successful. I'm not very technologically savvy, so I found someone who was. And I can't do marketing, graphics, and that kind of thing. And I found someone who could do that for me. So my team was really about experience and talent, and also breadth in terms of their networking capabilities.
DJ asked, were the launch team members also your beta readers? You kind of touched on that. So were these people that you knew ahead of time, or are these readers of past books that you've formed a relationship with and then you approached? What does that look like?
Those were readers that I had already known either through engagement from social media or personal friends and family of mine. And what was in it for them was, other than being a part of my journey, they got to see and critique some of my work as I'm going along, as I'm writing the book. And of course, they get an autographed copy at the end of it. So yeah, there's, a win-win for both of us.
That's great. These are your fans. The other thing I was going to say, these people really keep you on track, because when you have a team, there's accountability. You've given this team some legwork to do, and you've already said, okay, it's going to be this date at this time. So they keep you accountable, which is a big thing to keep, especially if you're out 3 months, even a month out. I mean, these people are keeping you accountable, because it's not you. It's so easy for you to say to yourself, I'm not feeling it. I'll do it next month, and just kick the can down the road. But these people keep you accountable. And the positive other thing they do for you is they keep you encouraged. So we're all going to get butterflies. I'm not any different. Danielle's not any different. Amy's not any different. Before we stepped in now, and we're in a room together, Amy says, oh my God, I've had a busy day. I want to calm down. I said, it's just a friendly conversation. Don't worry about it. But we all get butterflies. So these people say, Amy, we love you. You're brilliant. You got this. And we're right back here with you. We've got your back. So, another reason to have a launch team, but it's specifically, Amy, you're so smart, getting those roles that you're not good at.
Yeah, and my launch team made me do a dry run, and this is like, okay, what time is it in Singapore? You're making me do this at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. on a Sunday. But, it just makes it so much more better and smoother, and there's a trust there. So that's the key thing is relationship building.
That was going to be my next question. As Anna and I are old news people, we do something called a rundown for every show or every time we come live, depending on where we are. Do you do something like that, where you have worked with your team, giving them sort of a step-by-step, this is the intro, here we're going to talk, here we're going to move into the next place. What do the authors watching you right now need to know when they're putting together sort of their script, if you will?
Yeah, so I have been communicating with them on WhatsApp, on text, on emails leading up to this. We did 2 dry runs and 1 preliminary conversation, what the run of show might be. And after we did the run of show, we actually had someone, when we did the dry run, we had someone kind of keep track of the time for us. And we made modifications based on whether, certain topics ran a lot longer or shorter. So yeah, very important that this is, when you pick someone, you've got to moderate for you. You've got to make sure they have some personality. They've got to, it could be your best friend, but if that best friend doesn't know how to speak to other people or fill in the silence gaps, you're not going to have a very successful launch party. So pick someone who knows how to engage with the audience.
Right.
How long was your first launch event? how long was it? So to give people an idea, was it 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours?
So the virtual launch party that we did last year was 90 minutes, and it was perfect. We ran right up to the end. What we did was we started out with an intro of the two co-hosts, a little bit about what they did in their business. So it showcased their work. We went into slideshows. So I got to share very personal stories based on the Snow in Vietnam book and the Snow in Seattle book. And then we went directly into Q&A. And it's very important to have pre-made Q&A questions that you can talk to, because sometimes, you know, your audience, they're a little shy, or questions have already been asked and answered. So it's important to also have those questions kind of in your back pocket. And then after we did that, we actually did a fun breakout session where we did games, and Zoom assigns random people to breakout sessions together. And we gave them 10 minutes to talk about the book, talk about what they liked, what characters they liked. And then we came back together and shared kind of our stories and, you know, what was funny and what was, what we wish the ending would be, that kind of thing. And that was really interesting from an author's perspective to see what my readers and my fans thought of the book and the characters. So that was a lot of fun. And then in the end, of course, we talked about what's next, what's happening next, and then links to not only my information, but also my co-host's information. So it's additional visibility for them as well.
Great. That's a great run of show. And that gives people that have never done it before an idea of what it takes. And you did use some advanced strategies as the breakout rooms. You don't have to do that, especially your first time around. That's pretty advanced strategy. But I mean, if you know Zoom really well and can manage breakout rooms, do it. But if not, you don't have to. It's like you said, keep it simple. So we're number 4 on storytelling. Go ahead.
Okay, so storytelling. People want to know about you, your book, your inspirations, and your background. And if you do a reading, keep it to 10 minutes or less. So what I found is a lot of people who come to these events, they don't necessarily know who you are, and they may just like the cover of your book, or they're curious, or they have time, what have you. And so you want to make sure that this is not a sales pitch type of event. You're not there to sell your book. You're really there to sell you as the brand, and your book is of course the product. But so that's why I include stories about myself and pictures, so that there's a human relationship and the ability to engage, because oftentimes we'll find that we connect on a different level, or we have similarities and back histories that we can share, and that makes us more connected. So yeah, storytelling is a very important part.
So in your show rundown, are you weaving a story throughout the night? Are you giving them pieces, and then, you know, it culminates obviously on the book that you're launching? Or how do you weave that storytelling into your show?
Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of the pictures that I show kind of help me to weave the story. And I don't give, that's the important thing, is you can't give them everything. You want them hungry, right? So you can't spoil some of the things that are happening. Like, I can tell you my dad left the country, but I didn't have to tell you exactly why and what the circumstances are and how my mom found out. You know, that's something that you'd have to read the book on. But I always say give them just enough to pique their interest, right?
Yes, that's called a tease in television.
Yeah. I want to say too, because I think some people will say, okay, well, you have a lot of nonfiction elements to this. And so it does naturally lend itself to telling the story or showing the pictures or weaving it into your, as Anna and I've talked about a million times, you know, sell your bio because you're the best person to write this book. If you were doing a pure fiction book, or, you know, like somebody asked, how do you do this for a children's book? You know, Amy, can you give us some ideas that maybe you would have done differently if there wasn't that sort of human connection to the story?
You mean if it was just purely fiction?
Yeah, if it was just pure fiction, or if it was, you know, just children's book, you know, are there ideas that you would have done maybe a bit differently, or how can they, you know, translate their own work into what we're talking about here?
I think depending on the genre, it's a matter of identifying something that people already are familiar with or know about. For example, you know, the Vietnam War. A lot of people know about the war, but they know that from the perspective of fighting and not necessarily about the boat refugees, right? And so I think the important part is to kind of talk about a piece of history or something in mainstream that they can relate to, and then just kind of extrapolate from there.
I love that. And another idea too, guys, if you're writing, pure fiction, perhaps you can talk about your character development. Is it based on someone that you know? Did you write to a particular band? I know Brian Fitzpatrick is here and he has a band that has written a lot of music based on his book. So can you tie that in as well? Really picking things out that are really unique to your story itself, I think would really be able to help you fill that rundown too, and tie back into what you're doing.
And just share your story, your writing story.
I basically pick a theme.
Right.
And that theme you're going to carry throughout so that it is a story at the end of the day. All right, so we're going to move on to number 5, promote. And we talked a bit more about that earlier, but go ahead.
Yeah, so you need at least a month in advance to promote your event. Send it out in your newsletter, get it out on media outlets, set up a registration link, etc. So especially if this is your very first book launch party, this is you introducing yourself to the world. So you want it to be as succinct as possible, as professional as possible. And the more time you give yourself, the better it's going to be for you. So like I said, I wrote Snow's Kitchen in 1 month, y'all. I wrote it in November during NaNoWriMo. And that was in November of last year. In December, I published it. And then it gave me 2 months to really tie things together for the launch. And again, you're promoting your event. So I did reach out to Anna and I said, hey, do you want to come to my virtual book launch party? And look, here we are. But I also, sent it out on my newsletter, just little teasers. And I would put on my little YouTube video, hey, this is what I'm doing, you guys. It's day 1 of NaNoWriMo. And here's my wall that has everything that I've kind of outlined. And so people start getting engaged. They start getting curious about what does an author do? What is their daily life like? And I give them the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's how you start promoting this event, is letting your readers in. And then of course, utilizing all of your social media platforms, even radio spots. Some people don't do that anymore, but if you have connections to the radio, to the newspaper, whatever it is, leverage those connections and make sure that you set up a registration link. And I know that a lot of people just tend to go onto Facebook and click interested, or they're going, and then they have no idea how to access your event. So it's very important that you put all those pieces together before you actually do your launch.
Yes, and a pro tip, if your registration link is like jumbled up, please make it a bit.ly.
Yes.
Someone in your team can make it a bit.ly, the name of your book, just make it easy so that people can find your registration. If you're ashamed that you've got all this promotion out, that you've got maybe a media interview or two, and people can't find it because it's just so complicated, or send them to a page, send them to a .com page. This is great.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to get to.
I want to ask one question too before we go back. Yeah. Did you set up a sort of a promotion schedule, Amy? Did you say, we're going to run some ads, or we're going to, hit Facebook 5 times, because we all know that the algorithm will only show, a certain amount of our followers each day. So did you do that, or are you going to be doing?
Honest, I did not do that. In my professional life, back in the T-Mobile and Microsoft days, I was very regimen about schedules and timelines and all that stuff, and having a work back schedule. And but no, when my creativity side takes in, it's all fly by the seat of my pants. It's whatever I'm thinking at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's when, boom, I'm doing it right then and there.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it was very organic in that way.
Okay. I think then people will ask too, how many did you have attend?
For the last virtual book launch party?
Yes. Yeah.
So I had 150 people registered, and I think about 30 or 40 actually made it on that day, and we let them, those who registered were able to do the replay and watch the recording.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
And that's something that we kind of skipped through, but you should. That's another reason why do it on Zoom. You can actually set it up where it's automatically recorded and it goes out into the emails of the people that did not attend or that attended. It's up to you. So another reason why I like Zoom so much. Okay, so here we go. Book sales.
And one other thing I really want to say is, you know, authors are very different. We're either pantsers or plotters, or we're in betweens. And pantsers, you know, like me, we fly by the seat of our pants, and plotters are the ones that plot out everything and organize. So whatever works for you, that's what you should do. Stay in your main, you know, stream or your lane. Don't try to be somebody that you're not.
That's a good advice.
Okay.
And we are here in book sales, and this is something I added in. She didn't have that in there. And maybe because a lot of writers kind of feel a little bit timid about doing a sales pitch, but this is why I think virtual books, virtual book launches are so amazing because of the organic. People are expecting you to tell them where to get your book. And what I say is choose one channel. A lot of times you hear people, oh, you can get it at Amazon and you can get it in this place and that place and on my publisher side and on this side. And you confuse people, especially when you're on promotion. Pick one channel, even if it's available in several channels, they'll find it. But give one channel and lead everyone to one place. It's going to save you time also later when you're trying to really see what was your sales. Because at the end of the day, folks, I know, Amy, you said it's not all about sales, it's about relationships, but it is about sales. You want to get
sales. It's always about the sale.
It is about the sale at the end of the day. I mean, here you are, Amy, you're putting in 3 months of work, you know, your contacts to work and everything else. If you can't sell that day, it's going to be really hard to sell right after. This is kind of like you're putting like, you know, it's like a snowball, right? It's building and building and building and boom, here we are. This is launch day. And I really want to give people the confidence to feel really great about selling your book. And it can be easy as, you know, you plan the segue in your head already ahead of time in your run of show. You're like, okay, we're going to talk about this. Let's say about the book, this part of the book. And say, by the way, those of you that are interested in finding out what happens to Dolly or what happens to my father, you know, you can pick up the book and it's available here. It's as easy as that. It doesn't have to be a big salesy pitch. It's just organic. And, you know, virtual book launches really lead themselves to that. And, you know, do not be shy. This is your hard work that you're putting out there, and you need to be compensated for it.
And do the work for people. Again, I keep saying that, but again, we all know that unless you sort of hand feed somebody something, they may not do it. So if you're using Zoom, go into the Q&A, go into the chat and put the links there for them so that when you're finished, all they have to do is just click right out and into your channel. Or if you're self-pubbed and you're selling it on your website, then put your website there. Wherever you want them to be directed, make sure that you have that link that you can put right into the chat and do the work for them. It's so easy, it's necessary, and it will then create better results for you.
And Amy, I know you chose as your main channel Barnes & Noble. I just want you to talk about why. Maybe why did you not choose Amazon or your own web page, for example, as direct sales? What was the reason that you picked Barnes & Noble? There's no right or wrong here. I just want to give people an idea of why, because I know you thought through this.
Well, I picked Barnes & Noble because they're not only an independent bookstore, which I love to support independent bookstores, but they have a great online presence. So you're getting the best of both worlds. They can, you know, authors can also self-publish through Barnes & Noble. They have a self-publishing tool and company. So it's a great win-win. And I also love Barnes & Noble versus Amazon because they get it right. It doesn't matter if I self-publish, for example, on Ingram Sparks, or if I use KDP or some other platform, as long as I have my ISBN numbers through Bowker correct and registered, it will show up on the Barnes & Noble website.
And that's important that your sales are getting registered. Very important. Danielle could tell you a story about that in the next slide.
We could talk for days, couldn't we?
So guys, you know, book sales again, do not be shy, you know, give yourself a little segue piece where you know that's going to come up and it's just organic, it's natural, it's not salesy, it doesn't have to be salesy. People are there because they want to support you. So you got to remember that.
Yes.
And the last one, which we had a laugh about this right before the show, the freebies.
Yes, I had to say, how in the world are you getting people free food? Like, how are they showing up to this virtual book launch and getting free food? And then you said something that was so like, aha, of course.
I had thought about it because when I got this from Amy, I said, people love free. How are you going to get free food? And then I started thinking, I said, wait a minute, you know, maybe Brian Fitzpatrick wants to do this for his, you know. There is Uber Eats, and there's lots of pizza companies who deliver locally around the nation. So I thought, what about for people who went ahead and registered before such and such a date, maybe a couple of days before registration closes, you do a raffle and you say, guess what, Danielle, you've been the lucky winner of 2 pizzas and whatever, and you have them delivered. So during your lunch party, they're actually receiving food from you. So there is a way, you know, doing food with raffles, giveaways. Amy, you were talking about also the people that were helping you out. You were giving away the book and autographing that. I don't know if you have any other ideas that you want to bring to the table.
Well, one other thing about free food is that, you know, you can call a national chain. I have this love relationship with Papa John's, and you know, they get so much business from me. I wouldn't mind calling them up and saying, hey, would you give me a specific discount code to get 20% off your piece or something? And I can give that to all those who registered. You know, that's another example. So you just got to be creative. But the thing about my freebies for this upcoming event is that in Snow's Kitchen, half of the book are filled with pictures and recipes from my family. And when I do the raffle, the winner can actually have the opportunity. The caveat to that is they have to be local to me, Oklahoma, and I will personally deliver to you something from Snow's Kitchen, and you get to pick, and I will cook it for you. So that was one of the freebies that I was offering at the raffle. But the beauty about freebies is I get to make connections also with other people who want to be a part of this journey with me and who want to also do a little bit of self-promotion. And so I've partnered with people who make bookmarks, who are photographers, who do, you know, airbrushing art, and they want to be a part of this. So they donated all these freebies, and I'm just happy to promote them. What I've been doing is every week I do a little quick video, and it's the promo of the week. So I will say, hey, this is Dennis Giles, and he's with Artistic Air, and look at all this wonderful things that he's creating and donating for the raffle. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and I just love giving things away, including copies of my book. So please come to the party.
Exactly.
Another freebie, Amy, if you haven't thought about this, and you may have, we haven't discussed this, but since you have so many recipes, you should be cooking for them too. Show them how to create one of your recipes as part of your launch party. Just throwing something out there. That would be fun, you know?
We actually thought about that, but to be honest, I shut that down because...
Oh no! I would
too much pressure.
It's so much work when, you know, you're doing this on your own. Like my husband and my son, they're no help at all. And the kitchen is just, you know, it's a cook's kitchen. It's a mess, and it's just not set up properly.
I love it.
But I do like the idea. So I need a bigger kitchen.
Well, that sounds great. So here, you know, we're gonna just quickly recap the 7 steps for you guys. If you want to take a picture of this, I know there's been a lot of details that have been discussed throughout the show today. So selecting the optimal date and time, technology, your launch team, storytelling, promoting your book sales, and the freebies. So we've discussed a lot of things here. I hope we've given you a lot of great ideas. I'm going to stop my share so we could just all be together again in one screen. Here we are. I don't know. Any final thoughts, Amy, as we kind of close tonight, because we are at 8:01. But I do want to give you some time to do some closing thoughts. Your launch today, next week is going to be on your third book of your series, which is Snow's Kitchen, a novella and cookbook. Tell us briefly about that. And please, I know we're going to invite people tonight, right?
Yes. Snow's Kitchen is a trilogy of a coming of age novella. So it's really about my life, Dolly's life as a teenager, and going through all the spectrums of what teenagers go through. But the caveat to that is she's stuck between two cultures, the Vietnamese culture, very strict, and the American culture, very free. So, you know, it's the struggle there that, but eventually through food and through family, she finds her way.
That's awesome.
Where can they find you on social media too, so that if they want to, you know, be a part of your book launch next week?
Yes. So if they go to Facebook, it's at author Amy M. Lee. And if they go to Instagram, it's at Amy_M_Lee. Actually, I'm sorry, Amy-M-Lee. And so I'm all over the place. If you just Google me or Bing me, you'll find me.
That's great. So we're going to come to an end. As always, you can reach us at info@storyrocket.com. Amy, can you put up your slide of the invitation? I want to finish our night with that.
You got it.
And while you're doing that, Anna, people are asking if the slides and this Zoom will be provided after the fact. We haven't talked about that yet. So is that something that you will upload?
Yes, if you are registered tonight, you will receive a follow-up email from us, and we can give you all the details. And also when the recording's ready, you will get that. Here it is. Here's your invitation, full screen. Snow's Kitchen and Novella and Cookbook virtual book launch. You will notice I had to ask 24th of February 2021 at 7 p.m. CST. Well done, Central Time. And then you have the 25th, which is the same time for Singapore, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
So it's actually the same time, but it's in two different locations. She's putting in her moderator and her co-host, and the tickets on Eventbrite. And so how do they go to Eventbrite?
You know, you can click on that link, or you can just go onto your web browser, type in Eventbrite, it'll take you right there, and then you can search Snow's Kitchen, and it will come up for you with the ability to register for the event.
And there's her website, amymlee.com. Amy, you've been so great. If you can take this promotion off, and we will send that, if you can send me that slide, and I will send that out to everyone. And so here we are at the end of the show. Danielle?
We're ready.
As always, you're a star. I love you so much.
I love you.
You know, welcome to the Storyrocket family. I told you from the beginning, we're about sharing what someone learns. We put it forward because we're not about just having information for a few. So if you can get ahead, we want everyone, every writer to get ahead on their journey. And that's why we're here. So we do a thing, Amy, it's called Storyrocket Love. It's a triangle for the rocket, and it turns into a heart for love. So Storyrocket, love your way, Amy, and to everyone that's with us tonight. And good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a beautiful night, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye.